Hello. Thank you so much for dropping by this video. A very warm welcome to anyone who is new to this channel or new to these ideas. I am really delighted that you have found these ideas. They were literally life-changing and actually life-saving for me. So it's my utter joy to share them with other people. I'm alive here today because of the information I'm about to share. And the beautiful thing about it is there's no groups to join, There's no money. You don't have to. There's no set belief system. It's truly, in the truest sense of the word, it's free. And not just my sharing of this, but what we're going to be talking about, which is a divine, sacred healing energy that is free, that is available to all people, regardless of what your religion or lack of religion, regardless of what you believe, your nationality, your gender. And it doesn't cost anything. And so much of our lives have to do with transaction, right? Like, work, like I give you this, in business, I give you this, you give me this. And that can even show up in relationships, like scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. However, what we're going to be talking about today is rethinking our idea of what the divine is, what God is, and I hesitate to use the word God because so many people have some, they've been taught very scary things about God, but the source of all that is, that which made everything. Good afternoon, Mary. And so this idea of transaction has even come into our ideas of God and spirituality. Like, I need to please God, or I need to do this ritual. And yes, obviously the spiritual path is about doing harmonious things, but not just so that we get something in return, but to do it for the joy of doing what's right. But this healing energy, this sacred divine energy, is freely available to all people. And that's what we're going to look at, explore, and even learn how to take it in today. So, a very, very warm welcome. So enough talking about it. Let's do some of it. And I'm assuming that everyone who's dropping by, actually that's not a valid. So this is a live event that I publicized, but some people who come by this video might have no idea exactly what I'm talking about. So let me give just a little background, and then we'll get into the practicals. So in Germany in the 1950s, the miraculous happened. We don't know how many, tens of thousands, 100,000, possibly even more than 100,000 healings occurred. And they occurred around a very humble, simple man named Bruno Groening. And he said that when I say healings, I'm talking about terminal cases of cancer. The cancer would just vanish. Blind people would start to see. Like any, obesity, chronic pain, just anything and everything, it would literally heal. Dementia, insanity, migraines, diseases I had never heard of before would literally just vanish. And Bruno Groening said that he wasn't doing the healing, but that there was a divine energy which he was able to pass along. And he taught people how to receive it for themselves. And so that's what we're going to be doing today, is taking in that, learning how to take in that healing energy. And then a few simple ideas that help the energy flow. We're going to look at, actually, what we're going to look at is what blocks the energy and then what helps the energy to flow. Nothing more and nothing less. So now enough talking. Let's go ahead and take some of that energy in. So it's very simple to do. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards, back in a relaxed, upright position. If possible, not leaning against your chair, but not stiff either, just a relaxed, upright position. And then close your eyes. Now take a moment and really separate yourself. Put behind you mentally all burdens, illnesses. Hand them over to the divine. Hand them over to a spiritual helper that you trust in. Different people of different belief systems might have a different spiritual helper, friend, mentor, guide, teacher. If you don't have such a spiritual friend or mentor, Bruno Groening said that he was available to help people, even though he's no longer in his body. You can hand illness over to him. So taking a moment and separating yourself from illness, handing it over. And now have the intention, the will, the desire to receive healing, to receive positive energy, to receive divine energy. And ask. It can be a simple prayer, or it can just be the desire to receive it. And then observe your body, having the will, the intention to take this energy in. That's the practice, observing the body with the intention to take in this divine energy. So we'll have a few minutes of silence. I'll come in every now and then with a reminder. Observing the body, taking in this good energy. Noticing what you feel. The mind wanders off, bring it back. Back to the intention to receive. So if anyone would like to share what they felt or experienced, or if you have any questions about how to do this practice, please do type them in now, because I'm going to invite people to do this for the entire rest of our time together, to take in this divine energy. So please do type in any questions or what you felt. Personally, I feel a warmth and a deep peace. I feel there's a feeling of lightness, kind of like I'm just like everything's okay and I'm just floating along. So yes, please put in any questions or share what you're feeling. Mary's feeling light, not heavy. Yes, that's my experience as well, Mary. So this may seem, and please continue to, I'm going to talk a little bit. Feel free to share. So this may seem like an odd thing to do, to consciously receive energy. But the way Bruno Groening spoke about it was that it was actually the most natural thing to do. Now, that's a very radical idea. Bruno Groening taught that we human beings were designed, you could say literally designed, to be in connection, in communion with the divine. Yet for a variety of reasons, the human race has moved further and further away from the divine, away from a natural way of living. And interestingly enough, Bruno Groening equated natural and spiritual as one and the same. He spoke how animals and plants just easily and naturally took this energy in. But it's something that we human beings have forgotten. So it seems like this radical thing to do, right? Like, I'm going to take in divine energy. But what if it's the most natural thing in the world? What if it's as natural or more natural than breathing? But thanks to, quote, civilization and moving away from nature and away from the divine, we've forgotten that it's even possible, much less that it's necessary. So many people went to Bruno Groening, and many people come to this teaching seeking healing of physical burdens. And I was one such person. I had extreme health challenges that I literally my body was falling apart. Literally falling apart. It was 10 years ago, 2012. I was 39 years young, and I did not know if I was going to make it to 40. I had about 8 or 9 serious illnesses, and I was watching my health decline. I was watching myself go blind, having no energy, stiff all the time, having heart palpitations, and needing to be on this medication to keep me alive, but also the medication was killing me. Like, I was between a rock and a hard place. I had the psychiatric diagnosis of bipolar 2 depression. That's like manic depression, except the mania is not as out of control or wild. And if I decreased the medication even a little bit, I was in danger of mood swings, and then that would put me in danger of actually killing myself. And yet the medication I was on was causing a plethora of health problems. So I was truly stuck. The medication was killing me. Getting off the medication would probably kill me. And then I heard about this teacher named Bruno Groening. Hadn't heard of him before. And how he taught about this energy that could heal, and that healings happened in his presence. I honestly thought it was kind of ridiculous. I was very much an agnostic. I didn't really believe in spiritual things, but I was desperate. And so I went to see this documentary film about him where there were firsthand accounts of people who had experienced healings. I was blown away because, see, I thought spiritual stuff was just always kind of like there was always another explanation, that there wasn't actually a higher power or a God, like that it was always like, something in the mind or the placebo effect. Like I always thought all these things that we think of as miracles, well, there's always another explanation. That was my philosophy. But some of the healings that happened, there was not another explanation. Some of the healings were literally physically impossible. And then soon after that, I met some people who looked me right in the eye and said, yes, I've experienced healing too. I was very skeptical, but I was desperate. So I tried it out. And by my third, I went to a meeting not so different from this, where people got together and practiced receiving this energy. And by my third meeting, I had had a healing. I didn't even realize it. I had such bad backache and chronic tension that I couldn't sit for longer than 15 or 20 minutes. The first meeting, I left after 40 minutes. The next meeting, I made it the whole time, but it was very uncomfortable. The third meeting, I made it through and it was only lightly uncomfortable. And I think by the fourth meeting, it was actually comfortable. I sat for 2 hours. That was just impossible. 20 minutes max. I was constantly having to get up and stretch. But I didn't even realize that healing had happened. But the next healing that happened did catch my attention. I had a 2nd-degree burn on my pointer finger. And in the middle of the meeting, my thumb, I just started going like this. It's like I was rubbing the burn. And I just looked at it. I'm like, because it wasn't me rubbing it. It's like it was just kind of happening. And I'm like, what is going on? And then I look and I was just completely shocked. Completely shocked. So from that 3rd-degree burn, 2nd-degree burn, excuse me, which I'd had for 3 years, it was just chronically kind of like a light red color. I just had this light red splotch on my finger. And I looked, and it was no longer medium red. It was light pink. And I didn't know what was going on. I was shocked. And I watched over the next week, and I continued to do this practice at home of taking in this healing energy. I watched it go from, light pink to, or maybe first it went to dark pink and then light pink and then kind of whitish and then splotchy and then skin colored, and then the fingerprint grew back. The doctor said, I showed it to him 3 years ago, and the doctor said, oh, the part of the skin that regrows has been permanently destroyed. Like you'll have that for the rest of your life. And right then and there, I knew there was a higher power, that this energy was very available and active and could help and heal. And I hadn't even asked for a healing of my finger. I had much more serious issues. And it was the first of many healings. And I was able, the bipolar 2 healed, the heart palpitations, the chronic tension, the fatigue, had a number of things, just one after another, that healed. It was very profound. Pardon if I have a little background noise. The trash is being picked up. One moment. One moment. Okay. Some little background noise has passed. Um, so this teaching literally saved my life. My body was falling apart. It was horrible. It was utterly horrible. Um, and so I share this out of gratitude because I'm alive today. 10 years later, I am still alive, and have had many more healings and wonderful experiences since then. And so we've had a couple people join us. So I'm just going to review how to take that in. Monica, you asked a great question, and I'm going to take questions in just a little bit. So, to the people who just recently joined, how to take in this healing energy. It's very simple. Please sit with your legs uncrossed, feet flat on the floor, hands on your legs, palms facing upwards, back in a relaxed upright position. And then close your eyes and observe your body, having the will and intention to take this energy in. Again, observing your body with the intention to take this energy in. So we're going to sit for a few minutes in silence and do that. I'll come in every now and then. You don't have to believe what I'm saying. You don't have to believe in a higher power. I didn't. But you do need to be open to the possibility that there is a higher power. So let's practice for a few minutes. Taking in this good energy. The mind wanders off, bring it back. Having the intention to receive. Again, I invite people to continue to practice while I talk. So this begs the question, how does energy heal a physical illness? Like, how is that possible? Well, the way that Bruno Groening explained it is that illnesses always have a spiritual cause. The ultimate spiritual cause, he said, is a negative force, which he described as, he used the German word Bosse. Oh, got a little background noise, one moment. That's what you get with live broadcasts. You get life. So he used the German word Bosse to describe the cause of illness. Bosse has many, it's a very interesting word. It means viciousness, nastiness, evil. You know, we think of evil in terms of, many times we think of evil as, you know, there's a list of things that are good and a list of things that are evil. But he spoke of evil as more of an energy or a force, and that was the root cause of all illnesses. And that for healing to happen, then literally the negative had to be removed or displaced by the good. Now, of course, this sounds very radical and maybe even a little esoteric in the 21st century, yet you can find almost the exact same ideas in Chinese philosophy, in Indian philosophy, in Japanese philosophy, all around the world. And of course, many cultures which I'm sure we don't even know about. There is this idea that there is a divine force and there is a negative force, and that negative force is the root cause of all problems, and that the way to overcome it is through taking in the divine force. Now, that also leads to the question of, well, how do we take it in? So we've gone over the how, but one of the interesting things that Bruno Groening said about us as human beings is that we are not these bodies, but actually we are a soul that inhabits these bodies. And that soul has the capacity to receive. So moment by moment, or said another way, he likened it to a radio, that the soul is like an antenna. And the question is, what frequency are we tuning into moment by moment? Because ultimately, this thing we're doing right now of connecting with the divine and taking in divine healing energy is not something just to do while sitting down, but something to seek and strive to do all throughout the day, to stay connected, to stay in communion with the divine. Certainly not easy. And the idea is that this energy is constantly, that's why I started off saying that this is freely given, that the divine is constantly sending forth this energy. And then it's our job to take it in. And so through this process of taking in this energy, that actually displaces the negative, which according to Bruno Groening is the root cause of all illness. When I initially heard all this, I thought, this is ridiculous. But again, I was very skeptical, but I was open-minded. And And I've come to realize that, well, let me backtrack one moment. And so the other thing that Bruno Groening spoke about is also not just that we receive energy, but also that we have this capacity to receive thoughts. It's a very fascinating question. Where do thoughts come from? If you observe your mind, it can sometimes seem like all these thoughts coming from all these different directions. And Bruno Groening pointed out that just as we have this capacity to receive energy, we also have this capacity to receive thoughts. And that not all thoughts are good or helpful. We've all had those moments of having a good day, and then a negative thought comes, and then another negative thought comes, and the next thing you know, you're upset. And 30 seconds ago, you were having a great day. And so a huge part of this path and what Bruno taught was learning how to observe your thoughts and learning how to discern which thoughts are true and which thoughts are not true. And saying no thank you to the negative and untrue thoughts. The idea is simple, but then to live by it, that's where the rubber meets the road, as they say. So let's spend a couple more minutes taking in this good energy, observing the body, intending to fill up, and starting to pay attention to our minds, starting to pay attention to the thoughts that come. And just noticing, oh, does that thought feel good? Taking in this goodness, this good energy, observing our thoughts. taking in this healing life energy. Mhm. Beautiful. Thank you for that last comment, Steph Nickel. So the last thing I'd like to talk about before opening it up for questions is faith. So most human beings, when they hear the word faith, they actually think of the word belief, like belief in a specific idea. Like, I believe da 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 da, or I believe this religion, or I believe this doctrine. Well, Bruno Groening spoke of it being essential to have faith in God, in the divine, but he didn't talk about having faith in a dogma. He talked about trusting, relying, believing, not so much, not an idea, but believing the way, like I'm thinking of a very dear friend of mine. I just really believe in her. Like she's on the right track and she's doing good things. And I just feel in my heart, I believe in her. That kind of belief, of a trust, of a knowing of the goodness. That's not a mental. It's not a mental thing. The best word that comes to me is trust. He said it was an essential part of the healing process to trust that that nothing was impossible. Nothing is incurable for limitless God. And also to trust in the goodness of God. Bruno Groening would often say, God never punishes. Most of us have been taught this horrible idea of a wrathful, vengeful God. And Bruno Groening said that's very inaccurate. He just very simply said, God never punishes. That love is God. So now I'm going to open up for questions. I've already got a couple here. And Monica said, thank you for your videos. I do Einstellen. That means to tune in, to take in the energy, but have not received any healing yet. Do I need to be as desperate as you were? That's an interesting question. So thank you, Monica. I don't know that it was my desperation is what led me to try this. Like I said, I didn't really believe in spiritual things before I found this teaching and had those healings. So there's a couple things that Bruno Groening said that might be helpful. First and foremost, he said that it's not up to us to determine the time in which a healing happens. It is our job to work towards it, but that in essence, we can't force a healing to happen. Obviously, doing the right things or learning or growing is going to increase the chances, or maybe you could say, move us in the right direction. But ultimately, Bruno Groening said that healings are an act of divine grace. And another thing that he said was that if a healing does not occur, and I'm not saying this to chastise you or anyone, and there's still things that I'm working on myself. He said if a healing doesn't occur, it's because there's either a lesson that needs to be learned, or the person hasn't attained the spiritual maturity, which I understand to just be another way of saying that there's some growth that needs to happen. Initially, the healings happen for me as I just sat down, I received the energy, I went to meetings, I just received the energy, and the healings happened. What I've come to learn, and then Bruno Groening said physical healings are only 10% of what his work is about. They're an amazing part of the work. But now the place where I am, a few years later, is very grateful for the healings that occurred. And now I'm more in it for the growth and the learning. Like, yes, there are some physical things that I would very much like if they were healed, and there's a recognition inside of me that what's most important is to grow spiritually, to deepen my faith, to deepen my experience of connection with the divine. And again, by faith, I mean trust. I don't mean faith like having some particular belief. And to learn to be guided by the divine. And to learn, from what Bruno Groening taught, burdens and illness don't happen by accident. They don't happen for no reason. He gave an example. When people are chronically fearful, then that creates stress and tension in the body. And then he said the organs don't function properly. And then that can lead to illness. So a great example, this is kind of funny. There's a period where I had some other tension in my body that just was not going away. And I just would sit for hours and receive the divine energy, and it just wasn't getting better. And then I finally realized, dude, you need to be more active. Like, I was spending too much time sitting, receiving healing energy. But so this path isn't just about healing. It's also about being guided and living naturally, living spiritually. And, to give another example, let's say someone has acid indigestion, and they like sit and tune in and sit and receive this energy, but they don't change their diet. Like, they're eating this diet that's giving them the acid indigestion, then it's probably not gonna heal. The healing that needs to happen is eating more healthily, right? And that could be maybe addiction to unhealthy eating, and so sometimes the healing is as simple as you take in the energy and boom, the healing happens. And sometimes there's some deep learning that needs to happen. Sometimes there's some change, some inner change within us, or changing the way that we live, or changing the way that we think. So that's my short answer to a very, very deep question. Thank you for asking, and you're welcome to ask a follow-up question. And this is Steph Nikki. Hello, I'm new to Bruno. Grateful to learn this great man and his divine work and teaching. Yay. Bruno Groening for me was a game changer because, as I said, I was a very convinced agnostic. Very convinced agnostic. I was like, it was my philosophy. Like, maybe there's something, maybe not, but we can never know. We can't know. That was my bottom line. Well, Bruno Groening changed that for me. And so, yeah, I'm so grateful, Steph Nikki, and that you found this channel and found out about Bruno. And see, the thing is when it comes down to it, Bruno Groening's teaching is very universal. Be connected to the divine. through receiving this divine energy. Keep an eye, watch your thoughts, and learn to discern which thoughts are true, which thoughts are good and true and helpful, and which thoughts aren't. Cultivate faith and trust in God, which Bruno said that life is God. It's a very deep statement. Leben is the German word, which doesn't mean just life, but existence, aliveness itself is God. And then seek to be guided. Seek to be guided by this higher power. So it's very simple, but not necessarily easy. Hana Aya. Hi, Hana. I think it's your first time saying hello. Thank you for saying hi. So there's kind of, there's a couple ideas here. So Hana's question is how to heal dark, intrusive thoughts that come as obsessions. So I have a couple answers to that question. So the first is you gotta sometime, and I don't know which one is right for you. You'll have to determine that. Sometimes you just have to fight. So for example, one night I was lying in bed, drifting off to sleep, and the thought came, you're not going to fall asleep. It's like, what? And then another thought came, yeah, you're going to be up all night. What? Another thought, oh, this is terrible. I'm not going to sleep. And I was like, whoa, wait a minute. These are negative thoughts. I'm just like letting them in. No, I'm going to fall asleep. Then the thought came, no, you're not. It's like, yes, I am. I give away this negative thought. I don't want anything to do with it. And this went back and forth for about 40 minutes. 40 minutes. And eventually I won. The negative thoughts stopped coming and I fell asleep. So sometimes it's not as easy as, but it's as simple as fighting, not giving up, standing your ground, saying no to each negative thought that comes. Another way to approach it from Bruno, and Bruno spoke of the spiritual path as a fight. Another way to approach it from Bruno's teachings is just to give the obsession away. You could say, I give away the pattern or habit or obsession with negative thinking. I don't want it anymore. Please, God, please, Bruno, or your helper of choice, please take it. I don't want it anymore. And keep giving it away. If it comes back, giving it away again and asking for help and tuning in. And this is more of a personal in my own experience with recurring negative thoughts is to get at what's underneath the thoughts. There's in many, and this is something I've kind of discovered recently is, if there's a recurring negative thought, there's normally something I'm not seeing. Not always. Sometimes recurring negative thoughts are just the negative side just attacking. Like there was that with me in bed that night. There was nothing for me to see. It was just the dark side trying to cause harm. But sometimes there is something to see. I was having some negative thoughts about I'd gotten into a conflict with a friend, and we weren't in communication, and I just kept having negative thoughts about it. And so I sat down and I just wrote everything that came to mind. And I asked for help and I asked for guidance. And lo and behold, there were some deep lessons for me to be learned about that conflict. And even things for me to learn about what my part in that conflict was. And so I don't know exactly what, but that lifted the obsession for me. I was obsessed. It just kept coming back. And I just learned so much. It was like pages and pages and pages. And then the things that weren't so important, I just wrote out every thought. And the things that weren't so important, I'd cross them off. But the ones that were important, I literally reviewed it and thought about it for days. So that's just my personal experience, is that sometimes if a thought seems sticky or just keeps coming back, it could just be an attack, or that could be something that I'm not quite seeing. And that's something that I've recently discovered has been very helpful for me. Beautiful question. So we'll take some more questions. Feel free to type them in, but also going to just take a couple minutes to take in some more. I'm so glad that was helpful, Monica. Continuing to fill up, separating ourselves from burdens, from challenges. Having the intention to take in goodness, life energy. All right. Any other questions? Oh, thank you, Hannah. So Hannah wrote, wish me luck. That's so funny. Wish me luck fighting with my own brain. Well, Hannah, I want to offer another perspective. So if there's something actually wrong with the brain, then what I want to say from the teachings of Bruno Groening, I would say is give that away. Give away the problem with the brain, and take in healing energy. And I also would want to, and so you can view it and language it however you want to. And I'm just going to offer you another way to language it according to how Bruno spoke about spirituality and healing. Another way to language it is a battle with, if you're going to talk about a battle, let's talk about a battle with evil, with Bosse, this force that seeks to pull us off the good path. At first, I thought that was the most absurd thing I had ever heard of. Evil, and, it sounds like the boogeyman, right? However, who here has had the experience where it's time to go to bed and you're like, and this thought comes like, oh, I'll just check Facebook. So you check Facebook for a few minutes and then you're like, I'll just do it for a couple more minutes. And then the thought comes, oh, just a couple more minutes. And then next thing you know, you found a post you don't like and you're upset and you get in an argument with someone online and and you stay up for hours and hours and hours. You go to bed, but you don't sleep well, and you wake up the next day and you're grumpy and you don't feel good. All just because of one thought. And so Bruno very clearly spoke about evil as a force and a consciousness that seeks to pull us off the good path, that we must resist and we must fight, not in the, getting a fist fight, but kind of in the sense of how I didn't so much argue, I just said no to the negative thoughts the time I was trying to fall asleep, and these negative thoughts were coming. So just a different perspective. I'm not saying your perspective is wrong, and that I believe is what the perspective the teachings of Bruno Groening could offer to your healing. And I wish you much grace and much healing. Anyone else? Well, just as we have this capacity to receive this energy, we also have the capacity to send it. So you can tune in for other people. You can receive this energy and ask that it be passed along to other people, or for the earth, or a particular situation. It's not just about physical healing. I had a really special experience where I danced for years, but it was just improvisational dance. I hadn't really studied dancing, and it was just something I did for fun for a very long time. And then I felt inspired to go to dance classes. And every time before I would go to a dance class, I'd be really nervous. And so as I was driving there, I would tune in and fill up with this good energy. And I would arrive and I would just have so much fun. It was really special and really healing. And I just kept doing this every class. And every class, I would have an amazing time there. And so ultimately, the path that Bruno Groening taught isn't about healing. As he himself said, it's only 10% of what he taught. It's about harmony. In fact, he would say God is harmony. And so it's about bringing harmony into all areas of our life. Our thinking, our behaving, our relationships, our homes, and of course, our health and our body. He stressed how important it was to take care of these bodies, that these bodies are a gift from the divine. So I'd like to thank everyone for joining in and everyone who said hello, Mary and Monica and Steph, Nikki, Hannah. Thank you both, Hannah and Monica, for your beautiful questions. And let's see. That's a great question. Thank you. So two things. I have a website that has quite a bit of information on it. I'm going to post that there. And there's a section where under on my webpage, you'll see a section that says more information, and then it says further resources. And there's lists some books, and there are and there's a number of resources, including books and other organizations and other websites. So you can check that out. And that reminds me, I offer these free of charge, and I'm happy to receive donations if you feel inspired to. There's information on my website. And that is a great question, Steph, Nikki. Thank you. So now let's close. Let's tune in. Let's receive this energy for the world, for this beautiful earth and every living thing on it. Taking this energy in and asking that it bless this planet. It bless everyone who's living here, all the living things, including nature and animals. And the last thing I'll close with is Bruno Groening is a fierce friend. He's not in a body that we know of. He left his body in 1959, but he's very available to help. And you can ask him for help with anything. And at first, I thought that was the weirdest thing I'd ever heard of. That some dead German guy was going to help me with my life. But I found that it works. And the more I've gone on this path, the more I feel I've gotten to know Bruno Groening. He's a very pure soul. It's a very pure soul, and I feel very blessed to have found out about him. And now I'm very honored and delighted to be able to share him with others. Thank you so much for joining in. I wish all of you a blessed day and much blessings on your path. And thank you so much for this time together. Take care. Big love.